being with us tonight. Thank you for listening to me. And now we move on to agenda item 1 on the agenda. Are there any apologies for absence?
Sorry, yes, Chair. So we've received one from Councillor Phil Borman for work commitments.
Just so one apology. Okay, agenda item number 2, disclosure of interest. To deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interests other than pecuniary interests, as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and the Local Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. Any disclosures? I don't see any.
Rodney, I'm just saying we're getting some kind of feedback on your mic, which you might like to check. I don't know if other people are finding that too.
Yes, I've got the same.
Okay, I'll just turn the speaker down.
That seemed better anyway then.
Is that better? The only thing is now I can't hear anything. Okay, we'll try a little different.
Sorry, Chair. I think we were all muted. We all just nodded, so that might be why you didn't hear anything.
Yeah, that would explain why I didn't hear anybody say anything. So that's okay. So can everybody is the volume better from my end now? Yes?
It's crackly, unfortunately. I'm not sure what it is.
It is, yeah.
I think it might be more of a connection thing, which is unfortunate. It's sort of it's crackling quite a bit. So
see if I can move a bit closer to the screen. Is that any better?
It is when you start off. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, there's nothing here to say that there's any issue from this end. So, but let's move ahead and see what we can get. So, so I think there were no disclosable interests. There's no members of the public here for public participation. So we now move on to item 4, which is the minutes. Now there is a choice with this. We can either take them en bloc, or we can have the chairs of each meeting propose them one by one. So which do you prefer to do? Now, there's nobody saying anything at this point.
I think I'll propose that we take them in block, Rodney, and see if I can get a seconder. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I second that.
I think we had Councillor Rutland seconding that. So we have a proposal to put. So using the participants voting area, would you please indicate by raising a hand whether you agree to take all the items 4.1 to 4.7 en bloc?
Mine's not working.
Yeah, so when you click on participants and then raise hand, you're saying it doesn't?
Not working.
I think in that case, you know, just the odd one hand raised would be useful.
Yeah, I think let's do this by an actual show of hands then. So the proposal is that the items 4.1 to 4.7 are taken en bloc. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. We know, item 5, civic update reports, is deferred to the 20th of August. And then we move on to item 6. The item 6 is presented by our assistant town clerk. So Isabel, do you want to say anything to introduce this one?
Yeah, that's fine. I thought Keith obviously isn't here tonight, but it's more of an administrative action, this one. It was before we submitted the NAPED plan to the inspector, we had the summary as an appendix to the plan with the list of policies, but we were told that it was too large to go in as for the referendum document. So what we did is we separated it out, but we still supplied the document with the neighbourhood plan that went to referendum. So this was just something that the Lewes District Council advised that we should do after the referendum took place, was that this could then be pieced back together, basically. This is something that needs to come through full council, so that's why we're bringing this to you. And then even though it could go through Seaford Town Council, and then the District Council might decide not to include it, but obviously it's just to get council's consideration of whether they would like these items to be put as appendices.
So the recommendation that's being put to us is that we agree that a summary of the Seaford Neighbourhood Plan and the list of policies as presented at Appendix A for inclusion as an appendix within the full neighbourhood plan. So does anyone want to discuss this?
Linda has her hand up. Sorry, Councillor Walraven.
Councillor Walraven?
Thank you. Yes, I propose that we agree this recommendation, and I'd like to comment that the Planning and Highways Committee have been using the neighbourhood plan and it's working well.
Good to hear. Does someone second that? Councillor Brown, your hand up to speak.
I second it, yeah.
So we have a proposal which has been seconded. Shall we move to a vote on this? Yes, we move to a vote on this. So it's proposed and seconded. Those in favour of the recommendation, which we agree that a summary of the neighbourhood plan and the list of policies as presented at Appendix A are for inclusion as an appendix within the full neighbourhood plan. Those in favour, please show. Okay, any against? Any abstaining? That's carried. Thank you.
Sylvia Dunn abstained.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's good to have a spotter in the room. As soon as I drop my, right, Sylvia will record you as an abstention. So yes, the Deputy Mayor and I are working as a good team tonight. So as soon as I drop my eyes, something moves. Okay, that's item 6. Now we go on to item 7. This is again presented by our Assistant Town Clerk. Would you like to say anything in presenting this one? I
will very briefly, because it was it's in my name, but it's very much a group effort with all of the other officers. It's a very large report, as you can see. This is, as it says, it's very much an update on the decisions that the officers needed to take during the COVID-19 crisis, and it's bringing those items to the council for ratification. I would go through bit by bit, but it's obviously very big. So there's all of the officers are here tonight. So if there's any questions, you could obviously let us know.
So does anyone have questions on this one? Okay, so someone like to propose and second this, and so what we're asked to agree, we're recommended to note and to ratify the decisions made and the actions taken by officers since the start of the COVID-19 crisis. Someone propose that? Mark's got a hand up. Bill Webb's got a hand up. So that's
and Councillor Meek seconding. Yes.
Yeah, I think we've got proposed, seconded, and Councillor Brown, you hand up to speak or just to second?
Yeah, I'd like to commend this report because it's a lot of hard work that's taken place by members of the staff. And I think they've done an absolutely marvellous job over the last couple of months. So well done, everybody.
Yes, I'd like to add my thanks to that.
And I second it.
Okay, so Cash, what order do we have people speaking in?
Well, I don't know if anyone else wants to speak now. Councillor Dunn, possibly?
Yeah, can I just say, sorry, I should have mentioned it. Page 32, 1.95, regarding SFET, the Seaford Voluntary Group. Please could we, the minutes of this meeting, please could we give a massive thank you from this council to all the hard work of the volunteers. I really would like to see that actually conveyed through the minutes, if that's possible.
Yeah, I would happily sign a letter to that effect on behalf of the council, thanking them for their work.
Yeah, because they've been amazing.
Sorry, we have done a letter. already, but obviously we can sort of do that as more of a bit of a regular thing. So obviously this is something that's continued longer than any of us would have thought. So maybe it's something we could look to, keep going. So we're happy to put something together.
Yes, they do a very valuable job in the town. So who else had a hand up at that point? Councillor Olivia Honeyman.
I was actually just going to say what Sylvia said, to make sure we actually put a thank you in there. And then also I wanted to say that I thought it was a very good report, very well presented, and it was very good that every point was reiterated again at the end of each section, so that made it easy to understand and to read.
A good team effort on behalf of all of our officers then, so well done with that.
Councillor Evenden.
Evenden.
That's me.
No, I'm trying to find.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
When you say you want to speak, if you can move your hand, it's easier to spot than someone.
No, I had to.
She's got her blue hand up.
Ah, right, good. Councillor Evenden.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm in the Seaford Volunteers, and I've done about 20 to 25 different prescription collections and drops off and food and stuff, and it's nice to be thanked, but it's actually been really rewarding, and it's been an opportunity to go out and meet some of the elderly people in the community who've been shielding, and like last week the ones that I were meeting had left their houses for over 3 months, and they were just so happy to see someone at the door. So it's actually been quite moving. So it's been as rewarding as it's been for me, as it's been helpful for other people.
Yes, it's a good service. I went to collect a box from somebody's house to take back to the food bank. It took me 20 minutes. What they wanted to talk was rather than give the box back, but SPET does a very valuable job. So anyone else want to speak to this item, agenda item 7? Okay, so
Councillor Dunn, can you take your little blue hand down?
So we're to note and to ratify the decisions and actions taken by officers since the start of the COVID-19 crisis. Now, I think just to be sure, if I could just have a show of a consent for that. It's not actually a vote as such, but in the room I could see what you would do, but here it would be helpful just to have an indication. So do you all consent to noting and ratifying the decisions and actions taken? Hands up, please. I think it's everybody. Hands down. Anybody against? Anybody abstain? That's carried. Thank you. Now I should refer at this point to a list of questions and answers that were circulated just before the start of this meeting. So there are some questions that have been put about some of the items that come next. It may be that some of the written answers have been enough, but there may also be questions that need to be raised as well. So coming on now to item 8 and the standing orders. And this time it's our Executive Support Officer. Would you like to introduce it in some way?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so each year the council reviews its standing orders, and we were due to do this back in March, but it had to be delayed. So we've been through as officers and checked through standing orders and recommended some changes. The majority of changes are ones that were reported to the council at its meeting on the 28th of January. So the council agreed to those changes in principle back in January. So now it's just really formalising that. And then there's, so that's the first recommendation, sorry. And the second recommendation is due to one of the standing orders that says in the absence of an RFO, the council will appoint someone who takes on that responsibility. So it's just getting that firmed up as a resolution from council as well. So really not very many changes there, but obviously happy to answer any questions any members have. Okay, thank you. There is the paper I just referred to is a list of questions I think submitted on behalf of others by Councillor Honeyman. Olivia Honeyman, are there questions that still need to be answered from your list other than the written answers?
I don't think so. I think I put in most of the questions for to Georgia, and then also to the finance to Isabel and Lucy, and they've been answered in all with lots of answers. So I think it was suggested that this will be a good way to do it now, to rather than have a lengthy meeting, that we ask questions in advance and just have a few of them reiterated if we needed to. So on standing orders, I'm happy with what we've got here. Maybe further on, ask some other questions. Well,
I want to reiterate that point. In my view, it is best practice to ask questions of officers in advance of the meeting. If it's questions of fact or questions of clarification, that doesn't block that question from being asked during the meeting as well. But it's useful to clear some of these things in advance of a meeting. So I think that's a good practice has been shown there. So anyone else want to contribute to the discussion on item 8?
Councillor Brown, sorry, Rodney.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that we add that to the agenda as an item that, you know, questions should be put in advance. The agenda comes out in advance of the meeting and it does give everybody a pre-warning. So, you know, we're doing it anyway. It would be a good idea just to add it to the agenda. Yes,
I think a good thought would to give that back to the officers for action for that. Someone else want to speak? I don't see anybody indicating.
No.
So I'll now put these. Do you agree to have the recommendations put together? So I put recommendations 2 and 3 to the meeting at the same time. Agree to that?
Yes.
People nodding. So we want to proposer. Well, yeah, I think proposer and seconder for adopt the revised standing orders as presented in Appendix A. With the
proposed by Councillor Webb.
Sorry, proposed Councillor Webb.
Yeah.
And seconded by Councillors Borman. So that's items 2 and 3 are from agenda 8 taken together. So those in favour of taking those 2 and accepting the recommendations. That seems to be everyone. Just to double check, nobody voting against. Nobody. Councillor Dunn is waving at me. Are you voting against or want to make a comment? You're voting in favour. Right, so as everyone's in favour, I think there's nobody who could be objecting because everybody's voted in favour and nobody could abstain. So thank you for that. That takes us through item 8. Moving through to item 9. And now the officer presenting this is Lucy Clark, our finance manager. Lucy, do you want to say anything in presenting this?
Yeah, so this report presents the internal auditors report that they carried out on the 20th of May remotely. In summary, they're happy with all the accounts that have been prepared and satisfied that the AGAR, the AGAR can be signed off, which is also shown later in this agenda.
So would you just say what the words AGAR stand for?
Sorry, yeah, it's the accountability government's, sorry, I always forget this word, so it's the annual government statement, accountability return.
I can see why it's abbreviated. So we're recommended to note the internal auditor's report and to approve the appointment of Mulberry & Co as the internal auditor 2021. So does anyone want to speak to this? Don't see anybody offering to speak. So do we have someone?
Mr. Mayor, could I ask, now that we're getting deeper into the agendas, that the page number is given us so we can find it quickly, please?
Yes, surely. We're on page 56.
Propose we accept the report.
So proposed by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Dunn, seconded.
No, I wanted to speak. Sorry, I did raise my hand.
Yes, sorry, I didn't see that. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I was looking at my papers.
Throughout this agenda, it has been mentioned in the questions beforehand, and it will be coming up at F&GP, but it does really concern me, especially this is the auditor's report, that at page 56, 7.5, that the auditor says that our general reserves are below the 50% that is expected. And I know there's a report going to F&GP. I just feel there's not really much information. I know that the answers were given by Isabel in the email, but it just says that there is a contingency plan in place, and we are looking into this in further detail. We've not been given much detail. Is the report that's going to F&GP, is that going to be fully giving details of how we are going to either cut back, raise the precept I know it was mentioned that the precept would, because the general reserves would be raised by the precept in possibly January. I'm not comfortable with that. So is there anything else that we've got in place?
I think Karen Singleton is signalling to answer this question.
I mean, I would have mentioned this later, Chair, as part of another agenda item. I understand your concerns, and there are concerns of all officers too. I think the council has already decided last year that they wanted to increase their reserves, and to be honest, compared to 3 years ago, they've done that, even though they're still significantly low. There's nothing that we can do at the moment that we haven't already done to increase the general reserve, as I said in the answers that we gave you to the questions. So it will be a matter of discussion, to be honest, at budget setting time, because the main way to get out of this is to increase the precept, because it's a substantial amount, you know. And I think last year councillors decided that they would increase the precept by a substantial amount, but they didn't understand. We didn't know about COVID-19. We didn't know that this was going to happen. And this year it's just making do with best what we've got, because our income's finite. Once we've got the precept, it was at the beginning of the year, which made it even harder. We've got a whole year to go before we can get any more money again. So it will be a matter of discussion at the budget time.
So Councillor Dunn's point about coming to F&GP with this?
Yeah, F&GP will be getting a report from me to explain where we are at the moment and how much we're down at the moment. I mean, I can give you broad guidelines now if you want. Basically, with all the things that we've put in place, we're about 142,000 less than budget. So if you take that from the general reserve, that doesn't leave very much. If we don't do any projects, then we're about break even. So that's where we are at the moment. But we, you know, 184,000, the general reserve, when you've got the expenditure that we've got, you know, over £2 million expenditure, it's not enough.
I think all we can do tonight is to hear those facts stated and then work on the solutions to this beyond the meeting. I think that's simply, this is simply a straight statement. These are how things stand at the moment. But I think we all do take this seriously, and that we need to think imaginatively about solutions. Councillor Dunn, do you want to come back?
Yeah, just to say, if everybody's in agreement as a council collectively, that pre the budget setting, which will obviously be, we'll be setting those budgets from sort of October onwards for each committee, that last year we had sort of like a training session regarding the budget. Would that not be something the officers, Georgia and Isabel, could think about putting together, so that we as councillors could get together collectively, either if we're still in Zoom, to chuck ideas around and really think seriously about targeting the precept yet again, as we did put it up quite considerably last year. Just something to think about.
And we've already talked about the importance of having regular council training through the years of this council. So I think that, as well as the general training, the top up for what we had, with some of us beginning new, this could be something particular for finance at this time. Okay, so thank you. We've had a proposal from Councillor Brown, and we need someone to second that.
Councillor Evenden, did you want to speak? Your hand has gone down now, all right?
Yeah, I did. It doesn't matter. Don't worry.
Councillor Meek, you were signalling.
I was just going to second.
So it's proposed and seconded. Councillor Brown, do you want to come back on this?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that historically our reserves have been very low anyway, and we have worked very hard, and unfortunately the coronavirus has ruined our plans. And I think we've got some very hard decisions to make at next F&GP to put forward to council of how we can get out of this situation. So I think we can wait until the 9th of July for F&GP, and then at that meeting we can come up with, you know, some recommendations of what we can do. That's okay with everybody.
I think I'm seeing nodding around the room, let's say around the room, but around the screen. So Okay, so we have it proposed and seconded, and the motion is that we note the internal auditor's report and approve the appointment of the internal auditor.
Mr. Mayor, I think Councillor Honeyman wants to speak. Richard Honeyman.
Oh, sorry, right.
And up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick one. Are we going to talk about furloughed staff in any way? At any stage in this meeting, I was trying to work out not particular details, but obviously the costs. Because I note we're paying 100% of their wages as opposed to 80%, which is the legal requirement. So how much would we have saved if we hadn't paid? If we hadn't paid 100%, but 80% of the legality? Have you got figures for that?
But it's not quite within this agenda item, though. But perhaps.
No, I was going to say, is it going to be discussed in any way in this meeting? Those sort of details.
Assistant Clerk, are we? Is there a place that might come up?
I'm looking at Karen, but obviously she can't see that I'm looking at her. But I would assume that's something that would be within the report going to FNGP.
It will, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to know how significant that amount was. Paying that 20% obviously is coming out of the.
As Councillor Brown said, FNGP isn't very far away, and I think that's the best place to go.
I mean, talking about, are we going to have another discussion about the view, or is that for another? Again, this is the wrong place for that. At some stage, about when we're going to get it open, 4th of July and all that.
There's a Golf and the View committee meeting taking place on Tuesday.
So you're going to be talking all about that then, hopefully.
Yeah, there will be considerations put to the committee and how we can go forward.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
Right, so we've had it proposed and seconded that the recommendations 2 and 3 from agenda item 9 it's proposed that we accept the recommendations. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. Any against? Any abstaining? That's carried. Thank you. Then we move on to item 10, and this is page 70. And this is again a report from Karen Singleton.
Yes, Chair. This report should have actually gone to the March meeting that was cancelled. It's one of the things that we review at the year end as part of the annual governance statement, and the report has changed only slightly. The only risk that's changed is to increase the general reserve to 50%, and there is a paragraph in there which explains a little bit how what's been reassessed due to the COVID-19. So I'd just be pleased to take any questions.
Yes, because item 1 does say recommendation 1 to review, comment upon and approve. So this is your opportunity to comment upon. Indicate if you want to speak, please. No. I don't see anybody asking to speak. Have I missed anyone?
No. Oh, Councillor Dunn.
Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, again, I mean, it comes up again, 4.1. One of the things that was picked up as a sentence of central reverse to fall back on if these income streams cease. Again, will that be in more, not to discuss it in detail here, but will that again be presented to FNGP in your report, Karen, regarding how we would going forward, because obviously we wouldn't do it now, but going forward, we will find ways of having a reserves to fall back on. So can I just know that that's going to be at FNGP as well?
Yeah, as I say, Chair, FNGP will get a report on where we are now. More of the discussion of what we're going to do going forward next year will be the budget meeting.
Right, yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Right, so proposed and seconded, I would, unless anyone wants to speak, we'll put that to the vote. So, okay, proposed and seconded. Those in favour of recommendation 1, that we review, comment and approve, and 2, adopt the revised general and financial risk assessment as presented in Appendix B. Those in favour? I think it's everyone. Okay, just to be sure. Any against? Any abstaining? That's carried. Thank you. We now move on to page 83, which is the annual review of internal controls. And Karen, we're back in your chair again.
Yes, Chair. This again is another one of the things that we review at least annually as part of the annual governance statement. Again, it's another report that was going to originally go to March, and it's where basically officers have looked through all of our internal controls and listed them for you to see. And again, I'd be happy to take any questions on them and the recommendations as they are set out.
There are questions in the list of questions and answers. There are questions referring to this report. So, Councillor Honeyman, or Olivia Honeyman, do you have any? Are those questions resolved for you now? I think you have a question on page 84.
Yes, that's resolved now, thank you. I only quickly looked at these when I got home, so I didn't have long to actually digest them very much.
That's okay. I just want to make sure we're covering that everything's been answered acceptably. So, well, this is agenda item 11, the internal controls. Anyone else want to speak to this? No. Don't see anybody. Anyone want to? We're recommended to review, comment upon, and approve the council's internal controls, and note that statements 2, 5, 6, and 7, and the annual government statement have been approved. Have been complied with as set out in Appendix B. So we're talking at page 83. That's where the recommendations are set out. Someone want to propose we accept these?
I'll propose.
Brown, Councillor Cash seconds. Councillor Foreman would have been second by about a second earlier. So that's proposed and seconded. Show of hands, those in favour. Okay, any against? Any abstaining? That's carried. Thank you. And we move on to item 12. And this is now submitted by Lucy Clark, our finance manager. Anything you want to say in presenting this, Lucy?
Well, this kind of relates to the previous report. So this is again, this is the annual governance and accountability return. So this is talking about the section 1, which is for the effectiveness of systems of internal controls. That so we need to have it approved that these have been considered, which is what you've just done in the previous report, and then to also actually approve and to approve that this page can be signed. So, if that makes sense.
And there, yeah, I think there's. I'm just quickly looking through the list of questions. I think there's no question asked about this section. So, does anyone else want to speak to this?
Councillor Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Page 91. 1.6, Seaford Town Council would normally have to submit the AGAR to the external auditor, blah, blah, blah. It's been extended to 31st of July. Can I, because this I read last year, can I just query, do we actually get a report from the external auditor presented to us as a council, or is it we present to him? The reason I asked for it, because I felt that somewhere I'd read that we should publish the external auditor's I suppose if he does write a report on our website. I've never seen it, so can I just have clarification that we ask, do we get a report?
Karen.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Yes, Chair. Basically, the annual governance statement, the AGAR, is 6 parts, and one of those parts is the external auditor's report that he signs. It doesn't really say anything more than everything's all right by a negative assurance. That means that they haven't seen anything that is wrong. And it is always published every year, and it is on the website.
Okay. All right, thank you, Karen. Okay, thank you.
And can I just clarify that the dates that are mentioned, we're actually complying with the normal dates as it was last year, as hopefully it will be next year. We haven't had the need to extend anything. But the dates are extended by about 2 months, I think it is, for everything, just in case people can't have the meetings like we're having tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan being, if these things are carried tonight, I would go into the office tomorrow to sign the AGAR. Yes.
Thank you,
so,
Mr. Mayor.
We'll go back to we need someone to propose and second these recommendations in agenda item 12. that we have considered the effectiveness of the system of internal control presented in Appendix A. We've approved the annual governance statement for the year 31st of March 2020 as at Appendix B of the report, and to authorise the chair and the assistant town clerk to sign on behalf of the council as required, which is what I said I would do tomorrow if it's carried. But Councillor Borman, I think you've got in first this time. You're proposing this, right? Councillor Liz Borman proposes.
Councillor, yeah.
Ali Hayder seconds.
Yeah, Hayder, yeah.
Okay, we move to a vote. So those in favour of those two recommendations, please show. I think that's all hands as far as I can see. So that that was in favour. Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. Now moving to item 13, which is page 96, and it's back to our finance manager.
Yeah, so this is again, this is the AGAR, and this is section 2. This is the accounting statements that need to be approved. So if anyone's got any questions on what's been set out in the report, I'm sure me and Karen will be able to answer them.
My usual question to Councillor Olivia Honeyman. You have questions on page 97. Are they covered?
Sorry, I did have time to check George's, but because I was literally only in about 15 minutes for this meeting, I haven't had time to.
But to be fair, though, I'm targeting you, but everybody's had a copy of it, so anybody else could have read this and could have answered that question. So, so does anybody have anything to raise? Having those of you who've read the answers already, or those who've got anything fresh come to mind? So, if not, we can move on to Councillor Borman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just on the by-election costs for February, obviously they are a lot higher. This was also part on our neighbourhood plan. So have some of the neighbourhood plan costings been costed as an election cost, and actually should be in there, because it seems very high for just a by-election.
Yes, Chair. I did actually check with Kim Bryce twice, and she confirmed that that was just the cost for the by-election.
If she says it, she says it. But I take the point from Councillor Borman that we were suggesting it was going to be 6,000, and then it becomes 8,200. Difficult to ask them to prove their figures, but we have Councillor Cash asking to speak, and then Councillor Dunn.
So how do we know what the cost of a by-election is going to be then, if they can send a bill in afterwards? So if we expected it to be 6,000, yes, where do we get that figure from? And why does the figure come in at, is it 8,200? What's the, I mean, I understand exactly what Councillor Borman is saying, and I think we did look at that. We didn't understand, we thought it must have been something to do with the neighbourhood plan, but obviously not.
So, Councillor Dunn, was your question of the same kind?
Yes, but also I don't think it was the neighbourhood plan, because that was paid for, the referendum was paid for by Lewes District Council. It was their responsibility. Yeah. Because once we approved the plan, it went forward for adoption by Lewes District. So they adopted it to pay for it. So I don't think that figure was. What I would recommend or ask, if the officers could do this, is to, maybe for Lucy, to contact Lewes District again and ask them to give a breakdown of where that 8,000 figure come from, because I can't, again, like Councillor Borman and Councillor Cash said, it just doesn't make any sense how it jumped from 6,000 to 8,200.
The 6,000 was an estimate, because that's what we've paid in the past. So that's where I've got the 6,000 from. So I must admit I was quite surprised when she said 8,200, and I thought it was gross, but it wasn't, it was net. So I'll go back to her again and I'll ask her to ask why it's gone up significantly, and if there is any other reason for it.
Thank you.
I'll do that.
I thought we were given to believe that holding it on the same day as the referendum would actually save us money, not cost us more.
Yeah, I remember that being said.
I think Councillor Woolraven had her hand up. I don't know.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Dunn has asked a question I was going to pose, and I think we should ask for a breakdown of all the costs for that by-election, and then we can see where the money's gone.
I think that's a sensible thing for us to ask our finance manager to ask of Lewis. Whether they can do it, I don't know, but I think it's a question we ought to ask.
I think we've had it done in the past when it's been queried.
Okay, right, thank you. So we now have, I think nobody else is signaling to speak. We have 3 recommendations. We consider section 2, approve section 2, and authorise the Mayor as Chair of the Council to sign section 2 of the Annual Governance and Accountability Return. So is someone proposing that? Councillor Brown? Someone seconding it? Councillor Walraven? Liz, you're about a second too slow again there. So we have proposed and seconded. Those in favour?
We take all 3 together?
Yeah. Oh yes, sorry, I should have said that. Just before we start, are we agreeing to take the 3 together? Yes, together. Those in favour of taking the 3? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you. So we're now moving on to item 14. This is now on page 126. The annual investment strategy, and this time it's Karen Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. This again is another report that was due to go to the March meeting. As it says, annual investment strategy. It's approved every year and updated. It's not changed particularly other than the actual figures that are in it. We have ever since, because you'll have read in other reports that Lewis kindly gave us all of our precepts up front rather than normally they give us it in April and September. And this was to aid cash flow basically, because we didn't know how long the COVID-19 crisis was going to go on. We didn't know how long it would be before we got any of the golf course income, and the golf course income is a main source of income for us in April. So one of Lewis's answer to help us out was to give us the whole precept up front. So what that does mean is that at the moment we've got a little bit more money to invest than we would have done otherwise. But other than that, the figures have changed, but nothing else, Chair.
Yes, and that was the question about the negotiated figure. The negotiation was to bring the second payment forward, so we had one payment rather than 2. Okay, anybody, any other question? No, so someone needs to, so we're being asked, number 1, to approve the annual investment strategy as set out in Appendix A and note the contents of the report. Someone propose that? Councillor Walraven, someone second that? Councillor Meek? Okay, I'll put that to the meeting. Those in favour? Any against? Any abstaining? That's carried. So we're now moving on to item 15, the pensions discretions policies, and this again is with Karen Singleton.
Thank you, Chair. The Essex County Council have asked us to review our pensions discretions. We already had a pension discretions policy, which is an appendix to this report, but we didn't cover all of the discretions. East Sussex do actually give us all of the discretions. They give us them as a template. So basically what you see in front of you is what they've given us, our existing discretions which haven't been changed, and then additional ones beyond that. Pension discretions in general cost a lot of money. So if you award some of the discretions, I mean some of them are just administrative, but if you award some of the discretions, what happens is that you're like, if you order somebody early retirement and you give them money early, it's for life. So in their very, very nature, they're very expensive. So you will see that on most of them, I have actually taken the decision, I have taken the decision to put in the report that we won't exercise the discretions other than the ones we already have. Some of them actually say that we may exercise them, but under certain circumstances. So again, I'm willing to take questions.
And the points you've made about the employer's policy on the Seaford Town Council policy on these discretions, this is page 132 to page 140 to page 139, and your notes are in the right-hand column of what you're recommending the council adopts as its discretions.
So you've got the regulation, they come under different acts, and that's why they gave us the format they gave them, and why you've got so many appendices is because that's the format that they gave us them. And so you've got the regulation, you've got what the discretion is, and then you've got our policy is the end column.
I can't hear her anymore.
Again? Somebody spoke?
I think it's Councillor Adele.
Yes, she said she couldn't hear. Is that right?
I can't hear anyone. Sorry to interrupt.
Can you hear me now?
Could you use the chat option, and then Georgia will try to sort that out?
Yes, Councillor Adele, if you've got a question, and clearly there's something fuzzy from, I think, your end, because the rest of us are clear, could you use the chat option to ask your question of Karen, please?
I'm not sure there was a question. I think she was just letting us know that she couldn't hear what was happening at the time. So I think Georgia can contact her on the chat option to see if she can resolve that while we carry on. If that's...
Councillor Meek, you have a hand up to speak.
I just wondered, Chair, if Karen could kind of, I mean, I found all these appendices and everything, you know, very extensive and a bit confusing. Can you kind of précis what it kind of means in terms of finance if some of those options were kind of optioned, if you like?
There's so many of them, Chair, that you can't, but you're talking tens of thousands. Some of them are quite are very minimal in the amount of money. Like, for instance, one of the things that you can do, you can decide that every April you reassess every member of staff, and then you put them on the correct banding. And you can just do it every April. I can tell you which discretion it is, but I'd have to troll through them and look, and I'm happy to do that if you want me to. But what you can also do is you can decide, well, we're not going to do that. And if somebody gets promoted during the year, or if somebody changes their job and gets more money, we're going to reassess it then. So that has not got very much of an expense attached to it. But if you said that somebody was going to leave at 55, perhaps because of ill health, and then you were going to top up their pension, and they lived to 80 or 90, you're topping up their pension for a lot of years.
I think from the discussions earlier in the meeting, we're saying that because of the impact on our finances of the COVID situation and lockdown, that it's incumbent on us to act with care in this area, and not to take on any additional costs that aren't actually essential. I do want us to be seen to be a good employer, to take good care of our staff and our pensioners, but I think we have to be very careful about the use of money at this time. Councillor Cash.
I think it's very difficult for Karen really to put all this very briefly for us, because each one's different situations and how we would react to them. And I found the way she laid it out very clear, actually. And there were so many different, more complicated things. And then she explained why she was suggesting that we followed one or the other. So the document in itself, I think, is very satisfactory.
So, Councillor Moreland.
Sorry, I'm having to make myself hearable. Karen, they seem, most of the discretions seem to be still discretionary. So we could decide at the time not to do it if we felt very hard up or something.
Yes.
So they're not committing us to making early payments and so on. They're just allowing us to think about it.
Except, Chair, if you say in your policy, in the discretion, that you adopt it, it is committing you.
Yes, you commit. Yeah, once the option's there, you can't unopt. So,
Chair, there is the pension scheme, and it's got a set of rules, and those rules are binding. They don't change. They're the rules. But you can change the rules or add to the rules if you want to, and that's the discretion.
Okay.
But it's up to you whether you adopt the discretion or you don't. But the pension scheme need to know whether you do or you don't.
Yes, so I'm reading through the section of page 137, for example. Nearly all of your comments here, the council would not normally consider this, but in exceptional cases, exceptional cases, exceptional cases. So we've got an opportunity to be flexible without actually binding ourselves to do that.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, I can hear you. I'll unmute. I'll mute my.
Okay, so I think
I was guided when I wrote things like that. I was guided by the original policy that you'd already agreed.
Okay, so I think we're at the point this could be put to the meeting. Could someone propose this?
I'll propose it.
Councillor Cash, someone second this? Councillor Moore.
Sorry, could I please know what we are voting for again? I just rejoined.
We're on page 130, agenda item 15. And this is a proposal that we're recommended to review and comment and approve the council's pensions discretions policies. This is agenda item 15, page 130. So,
I copy that.
So proposed and seconded. Those in favour? Okay, any against? Any abstaining? Okay. Councillor Meek, abstention. Councillor Walraven, are you resting on your hand or are you abstaining? Right, one abstention, so that is carried. So thank you. We would now usually move to item 16, but there are no press and public to exclude at this point.
Sorry,
so then we move on to item 17.
Sorry, Chair, could you still just take a vote on the exclusion? We just have to vote on it for the minute's sake.
Yeah, we can do that, okay. So someone proposed that we exclude the press and public. Councillor Borman, seconded Councillor Rutland, all those in favour, excluding press and public. Anyone you want to find one to bring in? Right, they're excluded, thank you.